What's going on, guys? We're back tonight with a meta predictions for you. And I want to talk about some of the new buffs and nerfs that we saw today. And then maybe walk you through my predictions for how I think the meta could potentially shake out. Maybe certain decks we see gain popularity versus others. And maybe give you guys some options to explore, basically, with these predictions. So, just things I think we might see. So, let's go straight away. So, a couple of the buffs we saw today I want to talk about first. And let's go check out Jade Emperor was one that caught my eye. So, this card saw a buff today, a pretty big buff. Now says, when returned, if you won the turn, your common, rare, and epic cards, wherever they are, gain 25 until played. So, it does have the if you won the turn, which is kind of awkward because this card is just one energy for one power. So it itself needs to be played by something that is quite big already. That way we don't miss out on that buff because that is pretty important for any type of Jade Emperor deck. So we could potentially see some type of Jade Emperor deck arise, at least at first. I expect people to really test this card out with this large buff. Maybe Nazca Lines decks, data decks for sure might want to run this type of card. We'll probably see Declaration, some type of deck around that. You even have the Knight card as well we could see come into play. Maybe more of a Commons deck. There has been a lot of good Knights Templars, the card I was thinking. Gives 22 to your Commons. I've seen a lot of cards lately that have been printed with common and uncommon type effects printed on them. So I know there's a few space cards specifically that have good buffs for common, like common exploring the stars, 25 perm, wherever they are too. So that's pretty strong. You've got artificial intelligence, your common and rare ingenious inventions gain 18 perm. So there's tons of good common primates, 30 until played. Some big stats for common and rare cards specifically. So right here, 20 until played, wherever they are. Excuse me. I'm sorry about that. But definitely options now. And I think Jade Emperor kind of fits the bill for that. That 25 until played really helps that along. Let's see. One of the other cards. Yes, we want to stop editing. One of the other cards that I thought saw a nice buff today is a card I don't have, unfortunately. I'm trying to trade for it today now that everybody wants it. Leif Erikson. So we got the added play effect here for every exciting exploration, riding the waves, plundering pirates, and vicious Viking card in your deck. Those collections, wherever they are, gain 1 until played. So we're going to stack. So obviously, vicious Vikings and riding the waves, plundering pirates, they kind of already combo together as it is. So it's not going to be very difficult, I think, to get this card up to 12 to 15 until played, possibly more. So really, that's a pretty nice buff on those archetypes specifically. So I built a rough kind of Vikings example here. So you can see there's a lot of potential with this deck. Like I said, this could be potentially 15 until played. You've got Longship dropping 17 until played on Vikings. Sain, 22 until played. Havamal, 27 until played on Vikings. Another one here, up to a max of 5, so potential for 20 until played on Vikings. Ether Revolt, again, another 24 until played. And think this can combo with, we can toss in Cowpie, so that's another 20 until played there. This one right here, 15 until played, plus 5 if you played Leif Erikson. So another 20 until played buff there. Herald itself, 18 until played. I mean, that's a lot of stats on Vikings right there. So not even mentioning if we toss in, like I said, Cowpie, some other stats to the history itself, or Christ of the Abyss. You could go just with riding waves, Vikings, or riding waves, plundering pirates type builds. And Leif Erikson, again, going to be quite useful, I think, with that 15 until played on the majority of your deck. So definitely a good option now, I think, to give this a little extra. Like I said, I think it's going to definitely make it play tested, that's for sure. So obviously the big nerf was Cowpie. So as I've already mentioned it a couple times, let's go ahead and run over to it. So this is the card that's been kind of screwing with the meta with auto-tune decks. So what they did is they made it to where now you need 4 unruly rulers instead of 3. So this pushes it now into the world turtle decks, which is probably the obvious move for the meta. But I want to test the waters with some other ideas, not just say world turtle is going to be the new meta. Obviously, that's a choice that the meta could push and continue using Cowpie here. But I don't know. I think people are obviously going to get bored with that as well. So we'll see. I didn't create a deck obviously for that. I think it's pretty obvious world turtle decks. We've been seeing them like crazy. Another deck I think might see a play with the new card that just dropped today. I don't even have it yet. Is Statue of Liberty with this new card, Benetoite. This is kind of a neat card. So when played, for every science card in your deck up to a max of 6, your oceans and seas cards wherever gain 4 until played. So that's 24 until played on your oceans cards for a max for 6 of them, basically, if you put it into a Statue of Liberty deck. So that's pretty good stats there. But we have not only 18 until played on our Statue of Liberty, we could combo in Cyborg for 20 on 12 cards, and Lone Cypress targets oceans and seas for 22 as well. So there's some potential, I think, here to maybe add in cephalopods and get these things really massive off of the back of Benetoite and Lone Cypress here. That's almost 50 on your cephalopods, so quite large. So I like this as a potential starting point for some type of deck going forward, at least as something you guys can try out. I think this card could be kind of cool. It's going to be about like Lone Cypress and the stats it provides if you drop it in with this Statue of Liberty idea here. What else? My first instinct was arts and history. So if we continue to utilize Cowpie, a lot of people still liking Sigil and Ivar combo as an obvious meta choice. It's just a really strong combo for the 18 until played on your legendary cards, along with Ivar here with the minus 44 for 2 turns is pretty backbreaking in the meta. So maybe pushing into this Monuments card as a card that sees now more play going forward, because this is basically wanting an 8-8 split on your arts and history for the 18 for 3 turns and vice versa. So your whole deck's basically buffed 18 for 3 turns, which is quite strong. And we get to still utilize cards like Goatman for 14 until played. We get the Cowpie, we get the Ivar, the Sigil. This kind of puts us a little bit over the edge. And you can see kind of a rough shell here. I can still utilize Golden Goose, which is strong for the 20 until played on our deck. Charles Ponzi with the 40 until played. We can even toss in cards like Alice Blue, try to combat those Jade Emperor, maybe Jade Emperor Beowulf type decks start emerging. That could be an option as well. I forgot to mention that in the Jade Emperor. But you can see a rough idea here of a deck. Nothing too crazy. Do like the Victor Hugo buffs history 6 as well. Six history cards. So kind of plays out. You could even do like a Marco Polo. Buffs the entire deck one way or the other. But this is a rough path that we could see the meta shape. A 9-9 split with history and arts, I think, is not out of the question. And what else? So another deck that I could see moving in would be the history life on land build. So we don't see this one as much with the James VI. Gives the 14 until played on life on land and history. So basically this is just as good as what World Turtle is providing for the 14 until played. But we do have obviously a little bit different of a setup here. He does count as one of your unruly rulers, which is nice. So we can kind of take advantage of him to utilize Cowpie, so we don't have to add in a kind of a clunky Unruly Rulers card, which is kind of an option. So I do like these 4 that I've chosen with the Andronicus and the Charlemagne as the package deal there for the Life on Land history build. We get to still utilize cards like Funeral Bell. Goji Berries would be really strong in this deck with 9 cards potential for that 20 per turn. And we can still utilize cards like Goatman in this type of deck. So some decent buffs to play around with here. Obviously, like I said, the 20, 14, and 14. So I'm going to test it out. I'm going to see if I can come up with something strong with this type of build. But I could see that as an option anyway. What else? I think that's about it. Obviously, the same. We're probably still going to see the same type of decks we've seen as far as Life on Land goes. The trees. What else? We've seen mammals do decent in the past. We've seen underground, whatever, do decent. So those are probably still going to stick around because they haven't really received a nerf or a buff, specifically primates. But trying to focus on the cards that Cowpie, how this card can now slot into the meta, because I think people are going to be looking for new avenues for this card specifically. Since the nerf to it was not significant as far as the power level goes, it just added 1 extra card that you now have to play in the package. So trying to focus on how that's going to shift the meta specifically. But yeah, I think that's about it for this video. Just wanted to showcase a couple ideas I had and potential avenues for the new cards to shake the meta out. I don't think the other buffs were super significant enough to change the meta all that much. We could see, I am excited to try out Great Wall. I know it got a nice little buff, which I thought it for sure needed. So Great Wall of China, when drawing your cards in hand, gain 15 perm now. So it's on the level of Rat King, which is nice. So I do like that change as well. And one other that I really liked was the Arizona. I think this card was kind of a neat change, if I can find it. Where did you go? What is it? USS. Arizona. So when drawn, a random opponent's card from each album in hand loses 18 perm. So kind of a counter card now to the Rainbow deck. So I don't know if a lot of people noticed that when they saw the Cowpie change. They thought that was the only nerf. But really, this is more of a counter now that we have for the Rainbow decks as well. So kind of interesting that they took that approach. I do like it because I like the debuff archetype. But yeah, I think this was a great change for this card. But let me know in the comments what you guys thought. Was there anything that they missed or anything that they needed to change that you guys are sad about? I know I'm seeing a lot of Funeral Bells out there, but personally, in my opinion, I don't think Funeral Bell's that broken. I mean, we have debuff in general is not as strong as people think. If you build, why did I type that? If you build a deck specifically around debuff, it's not as strong as all the buffs out there in the meta. So to ding cards like Funeral Bell, I think is, I don't know. I wouldn't change it. If I did change it, the only thing I would do is maybe change the energy costs, maybe make it 6 or 7 instead of the 5. But aside from that, I don't think this card needs changed. But I don't know. Like I said, I want more debuff in the meta. I don't think there's enough, personally, that are viable or strong. And this is really like the only strong one that really comes to mind, like right offhand. I mean, obviously there's some other ones like Grim Reaper and I think there's 2 Reapers, but yeah. So what we got? Yeah, we got Grim Reaper Paradox is a nice debuff. We got the Grim Reaper itself, but I don't know. I like the change to USS, and I think we should definitely keep Funeral Bell the way it is, but that's my personal preference, so opinion. Take it or leave it. But yeah, let me know in the comments what they missed, guys, or is there anything that we need buffed or any other changes? I'm curious to see how this shakes out, probably much like most of you, but those are my predictions for it, so let me know what you think. As always, guys, appreciate you watching, and have a good night.